Welcome to the Smart Influencer Podcast. If you're tired of chasing algorithms, second guessing your strategy, or feeling like you're doing all the things without seeing the growth you want, you're in the right place.
We're your hosts. I'm Christina,
And I'm Corinne.
and we're bloggers, business owners, systems nerds, and founders of the Smart Influencer. Between the two of us, we've built multiple six-figure brands, launched digital products, hosted live events, and coached creators who are ready to level up.
Each week, we break down what's actually working in today's creator economy, from monetization and list growth to systems, automation, and building a business that doesn't own you. Because this isn't about hustling harder.
It's about building smarter. Let's get into it.
Today, we're chatting with Emily Christensen from Country Road Sourdough about how she monetized her food blog within just a year using social media. Super excited about this because it's a topic Christina and I know nothing about. So we are going to be asking lots of questions because we have much to learn. So welcome to the show, Emily. We're excited you're here. Before we get started, do you mind taking a minute to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here. So I'm Emily Christensen, as like you guys said, and I'm the owner of Country Road Sourdough. I've done a little bit of everything with my business. So it originally started with teaching classes and then sold bread. And then I started sharing on Instagram and eventually moved to a food blog. And so I've had my business since 2021 after my son was born. Actually, it was 2022. So after he was born, I decided, I don't have anything else to do besides raise two kids and stay super busy. So I added another thing on. And so you know how that goes.
Yep.
We know
And
nothing about that.
yeah, I think as entrepreneurs, we're all a little bit crazy, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
But I
That one day
share,
that you actually get a full 8 hours sleep, you're like, oh, I must have spare time.
yeah,
Let's
seriously, right? I'm like,
start
okay, on
another
to the next
business.
thing. Yeah. But on my business, I share sourdough discard and sourdough bread recipes. Uh, Instagram is kind of my baby. We talked about that a little bit. But yeah, I just love Instagram. And so I'm excited to share with you guys how I grew on Instagram. I got on my blog in 2023 and it was kind of sporadic. I did like maybe like 4 or 5 posts that whole year. And then in January of 2024, that's when I really committed. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And by May of that year, I had gotten monetized with Raptive with 100,000 page views. And I attribute a lot of that to my growth on Instagram before I had even started.
That is
Awesome.
amazing. Like I said, Christina and I have said many times on this podcast, like both of us cut Instagram. Like when we were like triaging at several times in our business, Instagram was one of the first things to go because neither one of us got traction there. So this is like this is a big mystery box to me. Like I don't understand it at all. So I'm super excited to hear what you have to tell us because I finally was convinced Instagram was might be great for sponsorships, for lead generation. No one's ever convinced me it was great for traffic. So like I'm fascinated. I want to know all your
All the
secrets.
secrets.
I'm excited to share what I've learned. And I do have a background actually in marketing. So before I started my business, I was in corporate marketing before that. And I worked there for 5 years and I did a lot of their social media as well. So I did have a little experience going into sourdough, but I did feel like, having a food blog was completely different. Before that, I was working more in the cosmetics, hair care, skincare side. So it was it was quite different, but there are social media strategies that work among any any topic.
So my
Cool.
first question is, why Instagram? Like because you worked in social media, there are a lot of other platforms. Like why did you like you said Instagram's your baby. Why Instagram?
I think because I already had experience working on Instagram with my corporate, it
Hmm.
just was a platform that I personally was using, and that was like the main platform that in my social media that I was consuming, that was what I was using. And so I just went all in on Instagram. And at the beginning, I was on Facebook, but at the time I didn't really think there was potential on Facebook. Now my strategy has changed. I see the potential of Facebook as well. But at the very beginning, I was like, I don't see the potential there, but I see a lot of potential on Instagram. And So I was like, I'm just going to go all in on Instagram. And I think that is important as you're starting out on social media. Like find the platform that you are already consuming that type of content because everything, all of the platforms do behave a little bit differently. You know, there is a different strategy for Facebook versus TikTok versus YouTube versus Instagram. And so find the platform that you really want to succeed at and start there and then you can build on from there. But really, I feel like the key is just starting with one platform and really
Yeah.
tailoring your content to that platform.
That has been a lesson that has been repeated by
Yeah.
every expert we've ever had on this
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I would think too, finding the platform where your audience likes to hang out is also super important. I'm thinking the
absolutely.
demographic for sourdough is
Mhm.
very Instagram friendly.
Absolutely. And I got in at a good time. So like I said, I started my business in 2022 and I wasn't doing social media at that time. So initially, what I started my business as was just in-person classes. And
Hmm.
so that's when I threw together a logo. I put my name out there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna name Country Road Sourdough. I slapped a Canva logo together and I just started sharing on mom Facebook groups like, hey, I'm gonna start teaching these classes. And I was so sick when I first started my
Oh
business because I
no.
was like, this is going to fail. I'm going to be such a loser. Like, why am I doing this to myself? And those classes sold out really quick. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And so I was like, I just kept pushing that. And then from there, I also started incorporating selling bread and all of that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start posting on Instagram. And it took about a good 7, 8 months of posting really consistent to really start growing my platform.
Hmm.
I think you can go viral quicker than that, but sometimes it does take a little bit of consistent effort and I had some posts that would do better than others, but I didn't really see like a lot of traction
Hmm.
until a few months in. And then once I started seeing that traction, I saw what was doing well and I kept repeating that. That's when I really was able to grow really quickly. And I think I started my Instagram at the end of 2023 and now at the beginning of 2026, I'm at like 500,000 followers. So
Wow.
I was able to grow pretty rapidly once I kind
Figured
of
it out.
got figured
Yeah.
it out. Yeah.
Okay, I have a ton of questions about Instagram, but I wanted to stop for a second just because it strikes me, it's so funny to me that your process, like your business development, is almost completely flip-flopped from what
Backwards.
most
Yeah.
of us do, right? Like for most of us, blog starts first. That was your last thing, like website
Yeah.
first, then social media, and yours like went in reverse of that. And then the only thing that maybe is like the order wouldn't be an exact backward order is that then most people would move on to courses and then to physical products, which not a lot of people do. Like we've only had a couple people maybe that
Mhm.
on the podcast that have done that. But you started with the two hardest things. Like, the two hardest things, and then you worked your way backwards. It's so funny to me.
She reminds us of our friend Audrey, who always says she blogs back. She's
Launch
blogging
backwards.
backwards.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, I truly didn't understand that you could make money with a blog. And that's why I didn't even start with a blog. Like, I truly thought when I first got monetized, I was like, oh, that's nice. Like, I'll make a few dollars a month. That's like truly what I thought. I just had no idea the consistent and steady income that could
Yeah.
come from blogging. And so that's why, I had just and I started my business honestly, like we needed the money. My husband was in medical school, so we were dirt poor. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do whatever I can to start making a little
Yeah,
bit of
you needed the sure
income.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That we'll give it a year and see if something
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was doing all of those things and then I started posting on Instagram. That was honestly just like a fun thing. And then once I started and I was growing my account, I'm like, okay, well, I have all these followers and I was like, it's interesting because I have all these followers, but like I'm not really making that much money from them.
Right.
Like you just because I feel like sometimes people think if you have a certain number of followers that equals a dollar amount
Yeah.
and I think people are surprised to find out that actually that really Instagram doesn't pay me anything now. It's they
Yeah.
don't even have a monetary program anymore,
Hmm.
or it's very minimal. I think I make like
Right.
$12 a month or something from it. Ridiculous, but
Definitely not paying the bills.
Right.
not paying the bills. So that's why I was like, okay, I'll start doing blogging and kind of seeing what happens there. But I only thought like the really big players out there were the ones that were actually making money. And so I thought I wouldn't actually see much money come from it, but I was happily
Okay, I
wrong on
have
that.
8 billion questions, but they fall
Yeah.
into two camps. One is going to be about how you did it, right? Like what works on Instagram, how
Hmm.
you figure out like what's going to grow, what's going
Hmm.
to grow that following. The other one's about the money, right? Like how do you turn that then into money? So I
Yeah.
don't care, like, or
Yeah.
Christina, feel free to hop in,
I
but
just want
like,
the secret sauce.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, and to me, those are the two pieces I want the
Yeah.
sauce for. So
Okay.
guide us, Emily, however you want to approach those
Okay.
topics.
Yeah, I kind of broke it out into like five of my top tips for
Okay.
Instagram on how I built
I
a
am
loyal
ready.
audience. So let's just dive into that. So, the first one, if you're just starting out on Instagram, the first thing I would say to do is figure out how you can be unique. And I know everyone's like, oh gosh, because that it just seems like such a buzzword. Like, how do I actually figure out how to be unique when I have all these, like, let's say you already have a lot of recipes or you already have a lot of content out there, whatever your topic is, how can you tailor that to be unique on social media? And also creating new content that maybe necessarily isn't for Google. Like a lot of the things,
Hmm.
so for example, when I first got started, some of the things that helped me grow quickly were doing unique things with sourdough bread. So I could have just done what everybody else was sharing and just posted, a soft sandwich bread and a regular artisan sourdough bread. And I could have done what literally everybody else on Instagram was doing and just continue to not really see that many results. Or I could think outside the box and do something that might be maybe even a little bit controversial for some people. Um,
Ooh, what's a
especially
controversial
Yeah, I
sourdough
know,
bread?
like,
I don't know.
Listen, people go up in arms, but what I started doing was I did a flavored focaccia series where I swapped out the water for different liquids in my
Mm,
bread. So I would do like pickle juice. I think at one point I did Mountain Dew. I did lemonade. I did marinara sauce. Like I did all of these things,
wow.
and you wouldn't think that would be controversial, but some people are very up in arms about
there
how
are
you make focaccia bread, but
sourdough purists out there.
yes, exactly. But I found a way to be unique because if somebody sees, I swapped pickle juice for water in my focaccia, everyone's like, wait, what?
Right.
And here's what happened. And so I saw
Well, no
that,
one's Googling pickle juice focaccia,
Yeah.
right?
right,
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah.
But here's where it becomes helpful with Instagram. I was just reading an article yesterday from my email from Raptive. They were talking about like your domain authority. And one of the big signals is if people are searching branded search for your things. So a lot of people then go to Google and might type in country road sourdough pickle focaccia.
Hmm.
Well, that sends Google a positive sign, so that is just one way that building your social media following can be really helpful, even if you're not having that winning search term as far as like having the quantity. When I made the pickle focaccia, there was a zero search volume for that, but I still made it because I saw the value
Hmm.
from social media. And, some of those flavored focaccias are some of my more popular and some of my higher earning um, blog posts on my site
Hmm.
Okay, question
because,
about this really quick. Sorry. So
yeah.
if you're doing it on Instagram, like if you create the content for Instagram,
Mhm.
like are you doing the whole recipe on Instagram? Like why would they? Okay. You're
No,
just
I
teasing
do. I
people?
don't. Yes, I only tease. I might say in the voiceover, like I'm mixing pickle juice and whatever, but I usually don't include my measurements and I don't include that in the caption. And then I use Grocer's List to then comment
Mm,
recipe to get the link and then
gotcha.
send them over to my blog. Yeah,
Okay.
so I've never when I first started, before I had a blog, I was just including the recipe in the caption. But ever since I got a blog, I just send people over there to my blog because honestly, it has way more information on there than you can type out on Instagram. It's easier to save, easier to print.
Hmm.
So I feel like people on Instagram especially are trained to go to another platform to get the information. TikTok has been a little bit harder for me because I feel like TikTok people are wanting the information right there, and TikTok doesn't make it easy to get off the platform because you have to go into their profile, then click the link there.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder to find the recipe, whereas on Facebook and Instagram, you can send them directly like a DM and then bring them over to your website.
That makes sense. Okay, so how can I be, I'm taking notes, so I'm going to be able to stay on task. How can I be unique?
Yes. So, for instance, like if you have a soup recipe, what can you change about that soup recipe that might make people pause a little bit? Or like, maybe it's not a soup recipe, maybe it's just like an appetizer, and you do something that's a little bit more out of the box.
Hmm.
Um, if you can find a way to be creative in your space
Mhm.
and it's not the same. There is a fly in my house that's driving me crazy. If you can find a way to be unique in your space, that is how you can win. So if you are just posting what everybody else is sharing out there, it's going to be hard to stand out. So there's a few ways that you can do it. You can either do it through changing up like your recipe, or maybe it's how you deliver the information is in
Mm.
a unique way. There's people that are posting a very traditional thing, maybe their sandwich bread, but the way that they deliver that video or the way they say something makes people pause. Like, for example, you you can rehydrate bread. You can run it quickly underwater to help rehydrate it so that it crisps back up. So instead of like saying, here's how you make your bread crispy again, I saw on Instagram this guy, he got like 1 million likes on this video and it was like, here's why I washed my bread. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
like I'm
think,
totally like
oh,
blown away by
Yeah.
this bread theory of wetting bread to crisp it up. Like
yeah.
you're literally
But
running
the
it
way that
underwater.
he said it, like, oh, I washed my bread. And, then people are like, wait, what? You're
Right.
washing your bread. And then he explains what he actually means by that. But if you can have some kind of hook that makes people pause or want to keep going, you're drawing people in to keep watching the video.
I
All
think
right,
we're
sorry,
both taking
I got
notes
to
here.
take notes. Yeah.
We're both taking notes. That's why there's the dead air. No,
Yeah, so
that's
I think there are going to be recipes that you're going to want to make specifically for Google,
uh-huh.
and of course, but sometimes having those recipes or whatever it is that is a little bit more unique that you think, okay, this will help me stand out on social media,
Hmm.
that's
It's
a
funny because I've always had that idea in my head. Like when I'm creating content, am I creating it for, like, I have this like process I go through, this decision
hmm
tree. Does it have Google potential? Yes or no? If no, does it have social potential? Yes or no? And
hmm
usually when I said social, I was thinking Pinterest, right? Can I
hmm
get this to do something on Pinterest? Never thought to take that same approach with Instagram. Like this is such a basic thing, but it was like this is like an aha moment for me right now because I
hmm
never thought to apply it to Instagram.
Yeah. Because you can like depending on how well it does, you can create new trends. I mean, look at like Amy Bakes Bread when she did croissant sourdough bread. Again, that wasn't one that had a big search volume, but she created this massive trend in the sourdough world by just posting, shredding a stick of butter into her sourdough bread. And it created a new trend and it created Google demand
That's interesting.
Interesting. And I love
through
that you can
that.
build your own, like you can work to build your own authority
Yeah,
for these
hmm
terms. Like I love that.
hmm
that's brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we only have you for an hour and we've already eaten up almost half of it and we only got through point one, so I'm going to let you keep
Yes.
going.
Okay.
Going.
So my second one is when something works, repeat it. So I feel like when I first started out, the one of the biggest mistakes I was making is I was continuously reinventing the wheel. Every single time I post,
Mhm.
I didn't have any sort of consistency. What I've learned is if something does well, figure out what about that post did well. Was it the visual hook? Was it the words that I was saying at the beginning? Was it the on-screen text? And once you figure that out, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. People don't care if
Yeah.
you're repeating. Now I use, if I have a hook that does really well, like an on text hook, I will continue to use that on lots of different recipes. I'm not going to post it every single time I post a video,
Mhm.
but maybe once a week I share that hook, but with a different video. Or, for example, over the holidays, I made a cinnamon star bread. And I had seen somewhere on Instagram, there was a video out there that made me think, oh, I liked how he was like smacking something and then the video he was making, I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I'd saved it into a folder. And when I was ready to make my video, I was like, how can I make my video stand out a little bit? And I went back to it. I was like, oh, I have an idea. What if I like slap my dough down and then I roll it out and then slap it on the ground? And for some reason, that combination of just like these quick transitions did really well. So
Hmm.
then I was like, okay, this did really, really well. So, how can I do this again for different videos? So then I did a whole series on like my star breads, and I did the same video every single time where I slapped it down, rolled it out. And every single time it did really well.
Hmm.
And then I was like, okay, this worked really well for the stars. How can I now do this for other recipes that I have? So then I tried it with like my sourdough pretzels. And so I did the same motion of like slapping it down, and it was slightly different, but kind of along those same lines. And again, that did really well. So figure out like what are those visual hooks that do really well. And then once you find something that works for you, keep repeating it. You don't have to completely reinvent the wheel every single time you're posting.
So, a question here, which is only partly related. I'm just curious, like, how often are you digging in your analytics on Instagram? Like, so that you can
So
see what's doing well.
yeah, I mean, I'm in my Instagram every single day, so I probably look at my analytics like once a week, but I always kind of have a feel for like
Right,
how
if
a
something
post
took
is
off.
doing. Yeah, if a
Yeah.
post took off, it's like, okay, that did really well. How can I work that into my other videos?
Okay,
So
next
const
question, because of that, since you're like on Instagram every day, I'm
Mhm,
just like, I hear you that if your listeners, like if you love Instagram, like by all means, this strategy is all for you. Let's say that not like I'm an email girl. I love email, but I've got my email
mhm,
system down. So I'm looking
mhm,
to expand to Instagram, but it's not my natural place that I'm spending time.
mhm.
Like real talk for me. How much time do I need to be present there and be doing this if I want to make this a real part of my strategy?
I would say if you can spend 10, 15 minutes a day on Instagram, just like scrolling through, but not just scrolling through, but scrolling through with purpose and looking at the content and looking at what is doing well. And then what I like to do is to save them into folders. So I have one for recipe inspiration if I see like a flavor combo I like, and then I have one for hooks that I find are interesting, and they don't have to be in my category.
Right.
I like to follow people that are just doing really well in all of their all the different topics out there.
Yeah.
And so I'll have like one for hooks, and then I will have one for a visual, like a video that did really well. So I have lots of different buckets. And then what I'll do as I'm like scrolling through with intention, I'll look through and be like, okay, this post did really well. And I like the hook they used. I'm going to save this into my hooks folder. And then when I need to go through and write my hooks, I can look through those and I don't want to copy, but I can
Right.
look through those and grab inspiration for how can I make this applicable to my brand.
Hmm.
And I find that very helpful. And it also saves time because if you already know what is working on Instagram. Again, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. So if you know that something is working and it seems to be working for somebody else and it makes sense for you, you know, putting all of those into a folder. And then what you can do is kind of in a Google sheet or something, you can start putting all of those hooks together. You can throw them in, and then you can use ChatGPT or another platform to kind of help you, like, here are these, help me to make them
Right.
feel more
Right.
like me or be applicable to me. And then I kind of go back and forth with ChatGPT for a little bit. And then I just, use the brain too and
Yeah.
and put together, okay, here's like a list of hooks. Now I have a list of hooks that I can use on my videos going forward. So that way, every time I go to edit a video, it doesn't feel as daunting because I'm not having to start completely from scratch. I have a bank of like hooks that I could use. Um, and I have an idea of like videos that I like and how I want to try and record things so that I can more quickly
Right.
produce content.
So I have a couple of questions here, and I don't know if you're
Hmm.
gonna be covering these in other points, you can say we'll circle back to it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Your content mix, right? So I'm talking about, are we talking feed posts? Are we talking reels? Are we talking stories? Are we talking carousels? Like, what's your content mix? And my second part of that is the posting cadence. Like, how often are you posting to each of those elements in your
Yeah.
content mix? And that's perfectly fine to tell me. We'll get to that later.
No, consistency is key for any social platform. I mean, social media is a whole business in itself. So, like,
Mhm.
if you want to succeed on social media, you can't give it a half effort.
Right.
Like, you have to be consistent, whatever that looks like for you. But I would say in order to really win on social, you have to be posting on Instagram at least 3 times a week. But I would say more like if you can get up to even 5 times a week, that is ideal.
Now,
Because
are we
the
talking
more
just in the feed, or are you talking reels, stories?
I would say reels are what are going to do best,
Okay.
but carousels also have picked up a lot of momentum over even the last year. And if you do your carousels well, those are doing really well
Mm.
on Instagram too. Like I just saw on Instagram yesterday, I thought that was a really good idea. She did a carousel and it's like things I can make you from scratch. And then it's kind of like roundups
Hmm.
of your recipes. And then she goes through and it's like, okay, here are like 10 different recipes that I can teach you from scratch. And then she'll send you to either the roundup or you can comment recipes and get the links to all of those. Or I saw somebody who was like, you see a bunch of carrots, but I see, 24 muffins, a carrot cake, and some like a chicken broth or whatever that include carrots. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting
Yeah.
carousel. So I feel like roundup carousels can do really well if you position your hook correctly on there. Um, but I would say my focus on Instagram is mostly reels.
Okay.
And
Do you
then
do stories?
I do stories as well. I wouldn't say I try and get on almost every day. My thing with stories, what I typically do, my first story is always going to be a DM me for this specific recipe. And that helps my story views bump dramatically. If I
Mm.
just get on and I'm like, hey guys, here's my day, I'm getting a quarter of the views that I can get if I start by saying, I'll say like, oh, I made this today, or you need to add this to your meal plan for this week. And they'll just say, DM me recipe for this link. Because people are messaging me and then Grocer's List is sending them
Yeah.
the recipe, I see my story views go up dramatically. And honestly, like I do that almost every day because it's super easy. I just take a still image and I say, DM me this. And I see as many replies almost as like my comments on a reel.
Wow. Okay.
So there is a lot of potential in that. So I always do that as my first story. And then I'll try and add like one or two more stories. But I am I would not say I am the greatest at always showing up on my stories. Some days I just don't feel like it, but I try
Yeah.
and get on stories a few times a week.
It's interesting that you said that how your process works for stories because we recently had Ben on from Grocer's List and he said the
Hmm.
exact same thing to make
Yes.
that your first thing to show Instagram that you're getting engagement and that will make your future stories for the day do
Hmm.
much better.
Yes, it always,
Yeah.
always does. So I always start with that, and then I can, share anything else that I want to. But
Yeah.
I usually only share a couple stories, like two or three stories.
Mhm.
I'm not somebody that's on all day because I have kids running around and my house is usually loud and there's a lot going on. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say my mix is a little bit of stories. But I almost every single day do the still image with DM me this for the recipe because
Okay.
it's just so
It's
easy.
easy, yeah, especially
Yeah.
with Grocer's List.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yes.
Okay. Back
Next
to
up.
your back to your tips.
So my third one is don't underestimate the value in roundups on Instagram. And we kind of just talked about this with like carousels, and that's a great place. But also just in your reels as well. I think they're a little bit easier, I find, than putting together like a whole recipe video because I'm just taking little clips from all of my finished videos that I already have and creating like a roundup. So, a series that I've been doing this year is like things I've made from scratch with my sourdough starter, or like things I no longer buy from the grocery store with my sourdough starter. And then I just go through and I show clips that I have from all of my reels that I've created in the past. I just pull several of those and create like a little roundup of five or six recipes uh, that I then include, and then I can send them all of those recipes.
Hmm.
So I have found that those do really well, and they're an easier way to create a video when you just need something a little bit faster because
Yeah.
you're just taking the edited clips from a bunch of different ones and throwing it all together in one.
Cool.
Perfect.
And then my fourth is being authentic to you and figuring out what that means for you. So, for example, if your strong suit is not making like really beautiful videos of your food or whatever it
Feel
is.
personally attacked, but
Yeah.
I am the same way. I would not say my specialty is creating like these beautiful glamour videos of my food. So for me, it doesn't usually make sense to start with the finished product at the beginning because the visual hook is just not quite there for me because it's not as eye-catching as what some
right.
people can do. So for me, I find that what draws people in is like just my realness and my just throwing things together, when I have no makeup on and I'm in my sweats or whatever. So like oftentimes I will start with the process first and then go into the finish at the very end. And I find those do usually a lot better for me than starting out with the finish because once somebody already sees the finished, they might decide like, oh, I'm not going to stick around to see the process because I don't really care that much.
Right.
But if you start at the beginning of it adds a little bit of intrigue. So oftentimes something that does really well for me is like, did you know if you add X, Y, and Z together, you'll get this product. So by adding a little bit of intrigue at the beginning, that's how I'm hooking people in versus hooking them with how beautiful my food looks.
That makes
So
sense.
I think figuring out what your specialty is and how you are going to shine on Instagram can be really important and figuring out like what's going to resonate with people.
That makes sense.
Like
That
I've seen a lot of people do studies and they share, the same video, the same talking head video, but they do one with makeup and without makeup. And the one that they don't have any makeup on actually tends to do a lot better. And it's people like having that. relatability. So I feel like people get really intimidated, like they have to look a certain way in order to get started posting, or they have to have a pretty kitchen or whatever it is that stops people. But
Right.
honestly, like most of the time, I am just propping my phone up on my water bottle and I'm just hitting record and I'm doing it whether or not I've got myself ready for the day or whether my kitchen is clean in the background. And people like that. They resonate with that. Yesterday in my stories, I shared a picture of like my messy kitchen. I was like, recipe testing day. And somebody messaged me and was like, thank you so much for posting this. Like, it makes me feel like I can relate to you so much better because you're human and
Right.
they
Well,
like the
in general, like the
imperfection.
people that I know, like my friends that are active on Instagram, um, they like it there because people are nicer. Like
Yeah.
it's not true of all the platforms, or like some
Hmm.
platforms are a little more vicious, or you've got more trolls.
Yes.
But Instagram in general, I think has a reputation for that, for just having friendlier people. Like nobody is there to harsh someone else's joy. So it's a
Yes.
safer place to show up like that.
Yes. And then my last one is being involved in the community. So whether you have 200 followers or you have 500,000 followers, finding ways to connect with them is going to be really important so that they continue to keep coming back to you and building that trust with them. So that looks like showing up in your stories, responding to the DMs. And I mean, I can't respond to every single DM that comes in at this point. It's just not possible.
Right.
But if I can take 10 minutes, every day or every other day or whatever to go in and respond, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you actually responded. Like people, it makes them so happy that you are willing to take time to acknowledge them.
Right.
And when you do that, it makes them want to come back to you. So next time they need a sourdough recipe, if you have talked to them in some regard, then they're much more willing to keep coming back to you. So being involved, and honestly, Instagram is a really great place to even get like ideas from your followers too and be able to talk with them of like, especially in stories of, what do you want to see? What recipes do you want me to create? Getting that feedback from them can be so beneficial.
Do you ever do anything? I don't even know. I'm not on Instagram very often, so I really don't know much. So, do you ever go live on Instagram? Like, is that a thing? Like,
Yeah, you can for
okay.
sure. I don't go live very often. I have done it a couple times over, I forget what month that was. I did like a series where once a week I was going live and like showing them how to make a certain recipe. I wouldn't say going live is my favorite thing just because it doesn't always work with my schedule, or like if my kids come out of their room at bedtime or whatever, there's not a lot of quiet time at my house. So I wouldn't say I do a ton of lives, but that is another way that you can connect with your audience and they can be talking to you in the chat while you're making something or whatever it is you're doing, or if you're just talking with them. It is a great place to get that feedback as well.
Okay, but it's not necessary. So, if you want to get
Mm-mm.
their input, you can be doing that in terms of like the caption and asking them to reply,
Hmm.
or in stories
Yeah.
asking them to
Hmm.
engage. Okay.
Yeah.
So are you posting all these things live or are you using a scheduling tool?
Ooh, good question.
On
Nice.
Instagram, I usually am posting live because I can't get myself together enough to get ahead. So that's just the reality of, for me personally, I'm just posting everything live.
Okay.
On Facebook, I do have a VA who she schedules out. So we're up to posting, I think we're looking at like 10 posts a day now on Facebook. And she goes in and she schedules all of those on Facebook. But as far as on Instagram goes, those are usually like I am editing the video and posting it that day because I just can't get ahead, if I'm
Fair.
being completely honest.
No,
Okay,
this is
so
like
it's
my
not that the
weekly
tools,
newsletter.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not that the tools don't work. It's just
No.
that
But
you
I
know,
will say, if you are going to schedule out on Instagram, I highly recommend doing it at a time when you can, right when that posts, it's important to be on your page and interacting with the
engage.
comments, interacting with other accounts, like going through your DMs, like taking 10, 15 minutes after that post to be available for questions, responding to the comments, responding to the DMs. And if you don't have any comments or DMs to respond to, then start going onto your feed and engaging with other
Yeah.
accounts.
Okay.
So I do find that's very important. So if you are going to schedule, just make sure that when you have something scheduled, that you're going in and engaging at that time uh, to set yourself up for success.
Okay. That sounds reasonable.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Corinne. Did you have a question?
I was going to ask about yeah, I'm all about the money. Like,
Yeah.
so like, I think that the key piece is to build it up so that like you've got the trust, you've got the audience, right? But like
Hmm.
turning that into dollars, especially since that's the path you
Hmm.
took, right? Like,
Yeah.
so the stories, I know you said that leads to the link clicks. Like, what are the things that turn that audience into dollars?
Hmm. So, number one, I think when you're building this brand and you're helping people connect with you, they're more likely to keep coming back to you. And that is always a good sign to Google when people keep
Yeah.
returning to you time and time again. And we talked about earlier, like with domain authority. So, being on social media, while it might not be your number one driver to your blog, there's a lot of things that you can't see in the analytics that are happening kind of in the background that are helping to push your blog forward
Yeah.
and help you stay top of mind to your ideal client. And
That's true
so,
because if they're searching for your brand name with a recipe, you see
mhm,
that come in Google Analytics, but you don't know that the impetus was Instagram.
Right.
right. So it's hard to know like the full impact of social media on your brand as far as a dollar amount.
Yeah.
But there's all these things that keep bringing people back to your recipes. And social media is the way that you can really connect with your audience and keep you top of mind. Because if you're not sharing your recipes and they are on social media and they start getting fed all of these other people's recipes, you start losing some of that share because then they're like, ooh, I'm gonna try this recipe. And then maybe they get hooked on that person and
Mhm.
now they're making all of their recipes. So if you can continue to stay top of mind to them,
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's important.
Couldn't we use UTM codes as well to kind of track?
Yeah, you can add, I know they were just talking about this. I went to Tastemakers
Yeah, me
and
too. You were in
oh
that
yeah,
that
and they were
session?
talking about that. I've thought about doing that. It just requires
It's another step.
Another
Yeah.
another
level
step. You
of
know what I mean?
Mhm.
add one
Oh,
more to the
yes.
14 we're already doing.
Yes.
Yeah, Christine and
Yes.
I always talk about that. Like, why can't anything just be step one, two, three? Like, it's
Yeah.
always 14 steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing, the kind of the things that you can't necessarily always
Right.
see. But also, by using a comment to DM platform like Grocer's List or ManyChat was the one I used before Grocer's List, having that so that it's sending them to the DMs. And then what I love about Grocer's List is not only does it send it, but then people can also save it to their email.
Yeah.
I think I have gotten over like 15,000 email subscribers just through Grocer's List, the
Mm.
save to email feature.
Hmm.
That
So
says
that's
that that
another
was a very
thing.
successful
Yeah.
feature. Yeah.
Hmm.
And there's analytics through Grocers List too. So you could
True.
Yes.
probably cross-check and get
Yes.
a good educated guess about how
Hmm.
successful
Yeah.
something was at driving traffic.
Yes. But I mean, for me, like having that Instagram following first, really, like when I took my blog serious, it was in January and I was at 100,000 page views by May. So, like in a very short time, I was able to hit that. And a lot of that is due to just driving people to my blog. And whenever I create a reel, it's like, what is the purpose in posting this? Like,
Hmm.
how am I bringing people back to my blog? If I just create things that are, there is a place for, creating things that are just for social, whether that's to build your followers, but always have a purpose in posting. Is it
Hmm.
to build your followers? Is it to drive traffic to a recipe? What is it that you are trying to do? Or it could be building your email list. We talked about earlier, like with roundups. Another great one with roundups is doing little like featuring an ebook that you can get for free on when you sign up for your email list. And that's a great way to build your email
Right.
list through social media as well. So, um, I just lost my train of thought. Uh, but yeah, I feel like always have a purpose
Yeah.
in what you're posting and what your goal is with
It's
Yeah.
that
funny. It
post.
it sounds like you were sitting in the class that I was teaching this week. I teach a writing for social media class, and that was exactly what we talked about this week is like planning your content calendar. Every piece of content needs to tie back to a goal. So it's almost
Mhm.
like you were sitting in that class yesterday and you're and you're reporting back.
And then another thing too is if it also sets you up if you ever do decide to launch physical products. So I self-published a cookbook in the fall. And so I was able to utilize like this following that I had on social media to then drive people over to this physical product. So, and another thing that you can monetize with is affiliate
I was
links.
just going to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a whole nother thing is I would say my biggest affiliate is with my Amazon affiliate links. But I also do have like some brands that I use and I will share their affiliate
Mhm.
links as well. But when I'm posting it, and especially in my stories, oftentimes I will share an affiliate link to something that I'm using. Like yesterday, I was grating cheese. So I was like, oh, you know what? I should just take a quick video of this and be like, hey, this is the cheese grater I love. And, send them over to this Amazon product. So it can be really easy to then share affiliate links.
Mhm.
And that is another income source right there. And then you can also get into brand partnerships as well. And I don't do a ton with brand partnerships at this point. I probably do one to two a quarter at this point, but still that adds another
Right. Another revenue
piece.
stream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another revenue stream.
Yeah,
And
those are,
same
I
with
get a ton
courses
of
too.
the affiliate, like some of the Amazon ones. Like
Hmm.
the number of things I have bought from Amazon in the last 6 months because it showed up in my reels is
Yeah.
almost embarrassing, to be honest. So,
No, and it's a great way to bring in just like more income that way.
Yeah.
And I would say too, make sure you're deep linking. That's really
Yeah.
important. When you're posting on social media, you should always be deep linking because most people are on their phones. And for
mhm.
example, if you just post straight from, if you go to Amazon, you copy the link, you post it into your Instagram stories. When somebody clicks on that link, it doesn't take them into the app. It just takes them into their web browser, which they're not signed in
Right.
to their
Hmm.
Amazon from there. And then likely you will probably lose that sale because people are like, oh gosh, I don't know my
Yeah.
Amazon
Right.
password. So
I
it's
don't
like,
think anybody knows their Amazon password.
yeah.
No.
So deep linking is really important. And Grocers List now has deep linking.
Right.
I'm going to switch to List eventually. Right now I'm with URL Genius. They're another one that you can use
Hmm.
for deep linking. And
And I use
having
PostTap because PostTap is free, so we drop all our links in there and convert them to a deep link, short link. So.
Oh, I'm writing this down. I've never
Yeah,
heard of
post tap
Post
for
Tab.
creators. Yeah, so
Okay.
and you sign right. The nice thing about post tap, this is what I love about it, is because I make a lot of extra commission from the Creator Connections program, where they like will run the campaigns. Post
Yes.
Tap automatically detects if there's one. So when you go, like, it will sign you up for the program right away. So you don't miss any of those. Like, you don't have to go check creator connections first.
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Mm.
We will
Yes.
link to that in the show
Yes,
notes.
they will be in the show notes.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I wanted to come back to because we went past it very quickly. Your cookbook that you self-published. Just because
Yeah.
we've had a couple people on talking about self-publishing versus publishing, just so we
Mhm.
can all stalk you there. Is that the same day sourdough cookbook?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
that's my cookbook, same day sourdough. Yeah, I self-published that one through Firewire. I had met them at Tastemakers and I'd always wanted to do a cookbook, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it.
Good for you.
And it was really fun. I enjoyed it and I really did like going the self-publishing route versus the traditional publishing, just because I had like full control over what the book
Hmm.
would look like everything was in my control. I mean, obviously there's some downfalls like trying to figure out how to get it internationally and some of that, but you also make a lot more per cookbook when you self-publish versus traditional
Right.
publishing route. But
Yeah, we've had a couple people on, and honestly, like I leaned with, I probably would always use a publisher just because, like, it exhausts me to think of all the steps and all the skills I don't have that I would have to develop to put out a good product. So
it was a learning curve, but shout out to Firewire, but they were really helpful with creating it and get me in touch with a good designer and all of that. But
awesome. Well, we will link to them as
Yeah.
well so that,
yes.
yeah, all these things, because I'm taking notes rapidly. So, listeners, don't worry, it's all in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So,
any
Emily,
last
before
tips?
oh, sorry, go ahead,
Oh, I was
Christina.
just
I was
gonna say,
gonna
do you have
say
any last tips or recommendations for us before we let you go?
I would say the biggest thing is just stay consistent, be true to who you are. Don't worry about getting all the fancy equipment or all the things. Like, I feel like that was one of the biggest things. I think I've been wanting to get on YouTube, and that's been like the most intimidating is like trying to figure out all the tech and all of the things. And just start by literally most of the time, some of my most viral videos, I have literally just propped my phone on a water bottle.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do anything overly fancy. I will say, if you want to use your back camera, Let's View. It's an app that you can get, and you can also get it on your laptop. And then, or you could do it on like an iPad or something else. But then you can see what's happening on your camera so that you can use your back camera is always going to have better quality.
Hmm.
So using Let's View, it's a free app that lets you see it on another screen so you can see
Oh,
what's
that's cool.
happening, but having a little bit higher quality. But still, you can just prop it up on your water ball, do whatever. Just start posting. The more you post, the more you're gonna get better at it. Like my first videos, when I look back, just make me, I'm like, oh gosh, I can't believe I posted that. Because the more you do it, the more you learn. And then just keep going back, seeing what's doing better than others, what's resonating, and then creating more of that content.
And the less intimidating it becomes, right? The
Yeah.
more you do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. It's always going to feel scary at the beginning, but the more you do it, the more consistent that you stay, the
yeah.
easier it becomes. And it just becomes part of your workflow.
Hmm. Now, I will tell you, my tip to you is make sure you take all these reels and you're uploading them as YouTube shorts.
Yes. Yep. I made a huge mistake with Facebook when I first started. I was not cross-posting to Facebook. So somebody on Facebook took my picture and they created a page and they would take all of my videos and post them. And
Oh,
they got like 100,000 followers, like super quick. And a lot of my Instagram followers thought it was me because my Facebook page only had like 1,000 followers or something. And so,
please tell
anyways,
me
it
you
was
reported them and got them shut down for
I
since it
did
was doing.
report them. They did not get shut down. They just took my face off, but they still, to this day, they're still stealing all of my
oh
content and
no.
posting it. And Facebook won't do anything about it. And they've
Oh,
blocked me at this point, but yeah, it's very frustrating. But yeah, cross-posting.
okay. So we're cross-posting to Facebook. We're also going to carry over those reels into shorts.
Yep, I share them to TikTok, to YouTube,
Okay.
And I have my VA do all of that for me. So I create the videos and then she spreads it everywhere.
Oh, I could talk to you for at least 2 more hours, I
I
think. I
know.
have so many questions still, and more of
I
it's
know.
like workflowy and figuring that part out. But this has been such a great conversation, Emily.
Yeah, it
Well,
really
thank you
has.
guys
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
me.
Yeah, if our listeners want to learn more about you or just check out your Instagram feed, etc., where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is countryroads2s's.com. And you can find me on there. And then also on Instagram is obviously that's my baby. So that's probably where I spend most of my time. So you can connect with me on there at Country Road Sourdough.
Perfect. And we will
Fantastic.
include all those links in the show notes for you.
I know we've got a long, I'm looking at the back end here. We've got so many things listed.
Yeah, so if you heard typing on a keyboard, it was just me trying to get all the links to put in the show
All the
notes.
podcast episodes we mentioned, all the tools, so
Yeah,
it'll all be in there. So,
perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Emily. It was truly a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Yeah. If today's episode gave you clarity, direction, or even just one solid aha moment, that's your cue to take action.
make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you found this helpful, please share it with a creator friend who needs to hear it. Smart creators build in communities.
And if you're ready to go deeper, whether that's through our mastermind, live events, or free resources, head to thesmartinfluencer.com and get on our list.
That's where we share the strategies, tools, and behind the scenes insights we don't always talk about on the podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Now go build something smarter.